All right, welcome everybody to our Synapse Philosophy Group. We're in 1910 D.D. Palmer's The Chiropractors Adjuster, adjusting the chiropractor back to true north. And we're on page 50, halfway down the page. The explanation of this general treatment is where that begins, okay? We're going to be skipping around in this book, and I will absolutely take suggestions of where you guys would like to, if you have passages you like or something you'd like to expound upon. I have a lot of good stuff. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself in here, but I know other people have some things they want to talk about, and it's 1,100 or something pages long, and I don't feel like reading this whole book out loud to this group because there's a lot that can also be cut out, all right? So I'm just going to start right now. Alan, you're muted.
I said in this group it would probably take us about 4 or 5 years to go through 1,100 pages
Easily.
at least.
Easily. But then we got good conversation going on. That's the good part. We're breaking chiropractic down like the old guys used to do, and we're the new old guys, all right? So we're breaking it down. And that includes you, Alan.
I'm guilty. Guilty.
All right, I'm going to start. Okay, everybody ready? Let's rock and roll. The explanation of this general treatment was, the doctor asks the patient no questions, but makes his diagnosis through direct examination of the vertebra. Regardless of the ailment, he adjusts any or all vertebrae that are thought to be out of alignment. A knowledge of the contour of the spinous process is considered very essential, so that all the abnormalities found in the outline of the spinous processes can be adjusted. The vertebrae are not corrected for special disease. The whole spine is looked over and all irregularities corrected. The knowledge of disease is not necessary. It is not essential to know the ailments for which adjustments are given, and I think that's important. Months of study of physiology, pathology, neurology, osteology, myology, and all the other ologies are unnecessary. This mode of procedure is what might be appropriately called general chiropractic adjusting, analogous to osteopath's general treatment, which consists of manipulation and Swedish movements covering the entire body. I don't know what a Swedish movement is. As the osteopath learns that special moves specific results, so the chiropractor will, in time, learn to be specific in his work, making chiropractic a science. Hit the high places method would be all right if all the vertebral column was alike in health in the outline of the digital ends and spinous processes. But on the contrary, we find no two of them alike, so that it depends upon the configuration of the spinous process alone is often misleading. It is well known the locality of the special alignment we are expected to relieve. Knowing the locality, we should be specific in determining by palpation the nerve impinged upon, the vertebra displaced, and the direction it should be moved in order to rack it into its normal position and then act accordingly. So that's where he's correcting rack 'em and crack 'em and saying be specific. For me, it's also really tuning in the beauty of our hands and the magic of this fantastic touch. And because there's no finer machine than our human body and the human touch. What do you guys feel about that? I thought it was fairly relevant. We can move on.
I think it's interesting. It seems to, and again, as I want to do, we have to remember that this was written over a century ago, and he talks mostly here about changing the spine, making the spine straighter, if you will, which is, and there's certainly techniques, CBP among them, that leans heavily on what they think an ideal spine is supposed to look like. I'm not sure that we haven't developed as knowledge has gone on. And you know, then interestingly, it almost conflicts with some of the spirituality that we talked about earlier, in that it leaves that part out and is going strictly on, you know, what do you find in, you know, osseously that needs to be changed here?
You know, that's, you know, I didn't think about that contradictory part, but, you know, you're kind of right on target. You're right on target. What about you, Dave? Anybody got any insights on that?
I usually say to my patients when they come in, like I give them a story about another patient. I'm like, look, I had a lady come in and, you know, if she would tell me that she had, you know, neck pain and upset stomach and this and that, and then she just told me all about her symptoms for an hour long, and I listened and I wrote it down, and then I adjusted her. I said it would have been the same exact outcome if she didn't say anything. I checked her spine and adjusted her. It would have been the same outcome. So I tell them, I say to my patients, my practice members, I say, look, I said, don't take this the wrong way, but how you feel is not my concern. It's how you function. And if you have neuroskeletal misalignments or subluxations, and I find them, I'm going to remove them. And like Reggie said, that may or may not clear up your symptoms, but you know, and like Reggie said, if for some reason you have asthma and then I adjust you and your asthma doesn't go away, you're going to clean up the whole shop and be like, no, I don't want to remove subluxations anymore. So what he's saying is still true today, you know, for how we practice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? You know, adjusting the vertebra properly, it doesn't always stay right in place. And he does talk about if we adjust 6 or 7 more vertebrae, this is the next paragraph, or adjust the whole spinal column. As a friend Carver states in his analysis of hemiplegia, paralysis of the lateral half of the body, there will be occlusions throughout the length of the vertebral column. In meningitis, he says, there will be occlusions of all the trunk nerves of the vertebral column. In syphilis, same type of thing. This is not definite, not specific, and not scientific is what he says too. So, you know, he's contradicting a lot of people through here as well as what he's talking about. But finding the subluxation, finding the one vertebra. A friend of mine, Mark Johnson, he's up in New Jersey. And he said, you find that point of critical tension. It's one point, and you can find, and you ever see people, it's just like a network. You find that one spot, and they start unwinding that whole spinal column. And I had a young girl in today. She's like, I feel absolutely terrible. I feel awful. Your last adjustment hurt, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't going to come back. And I said, well, thank God you did, because I didn't have a chance to educate you properly. Sometimes it doesn't feel so good the first day. And I adjusted her atlas today, and her whole body, just like in network, did like this for like, 10 seconds. And she got up and she said, oh my God, I've never felt better in my entire life. I said, could you imagine if you ended everything from that one time when you were feeling your absolute worst when you came in and you got adjusted and you felt a little better, but you were still feeling terrible. Now your second adjustment, your life is changing. Now tell everybody else about it, I tell her. Now, who have you told?
Always, I try to make sure they notice little things that happen that they usually probably ignore. How often do you adjust somebody and suddenly their breathing changes?
Yeah.
Or you adjust them and suddenly they cough, or they suddenly take a deep breath. And I immediately would say to people, did you notice that? That wasn't an accident. That wasn't random. That was your body changed and allowed you to breathe more easily, or wanted you to get rid of something at that moment. It was released because we changed something in your nerve system, and it suddenly can do something to help you out. Because so often they won't notice it, or they'll just think it's random. And I know it's not, as most of you do. And I make sure that I point it out to the practice member on the table so that they start to think that way and
I
really power what we do, even if it's subtle, even when it's subtle.
and I mean, we're making subtle changes, there are no small things when you talk about the central nerve system. Those
Correct.
little things are gigantic, right? But they don't know that. We do. Anyone else? You know what I do too? I do leg checks sometimes, but I do SI joints check. Usually it doesn't move, right? It doesn't move. And you adjust them and it's like, wow, can you feel that now? And it's like, boom, same thing, light bulb. Just like it looks behind your head, Alan. You look like you're, having a spiritual moment.
I am.
And we have the doggy here. Our life is complete. I love it. I love it. Okay.
What do you say?
This is now, I'm going to skip the next paragraph. I'll read this in paragraph. The entire column has 31 pairs of nerves, 62 spinal nerve trunks. These, he says, I don't like the whole he says stuff, so I'm going to skip a bit. This book was written for the purpose of teaching chiropractic as a science, making the art of adjusting specific, giving a special location and adjustment for each disease so far as we know. And he does have an almanac of that in this. Any person can learn to hit the high spots, high places, replace and displace vertebra, relieve one disease and cause another. Let us, as chiropractors, show the world that chiropractic is a science, that hemiplegia is caused by a displaced vertebra, the sixth dorsal. The relief is given by replacing that vertebra and none other. Why not be specific in typhoid fever? Why not learn which vertebra is drawn out of alignment? Which one causes the symptoms collectively known as typhoid? No matter if the evidence of a certain disease is manifested in various parts of the body. Remember that there are no two ganglionic chains of the sympathetic nerve system reaching from the occiput to the coccyx. Its plexus and nerves extending into the cranium, and that these vertebral cords are distributing agencies. Why not combine the science of chiropractic with the art of adjusting? I am pleased to state many chiropractors have outgrown and have no further use for medicine, magnetic treatment, vibrators, or osteopathy. They practice chiropractic unmixed. Now, why not take another step forward by giving only specific adjustments? Vaccination and inoculations are pathological. Chiropractic is physiological. So I believe in chiropractic and the physiology, not in the pathology. That's why I don't do vaccines. Okay. So Dee Dee just laid the law down in those last couple of paragraphs. How do you guys feel about that? Should I continue to read?
Sure.
All right. We need a little more discussion tonight, so I'll keep going. All right. The only place where the nerve transmission of life force as a nerve impulse from the brain to any organ or part can be interfered with is where the nerves extend out through the spinal windows between the bones, where they may become impinged, thus interfering with their power of transmission. A nerve impulse. An impulse is a sudden, spontaneous emotion originated by innate, the spirit, and directed upon the mind with a certain amount of determination or force, and transmitted through the nerves to their peripheral endings. These are motor impulses. A sensational impulse is a consciousness produced by external object for an internal condition of some portion of the body and transmitted through the sensory nerves to the originator of function. An impulse is not a nerve impulse originating in the nerves. Apparent origin is in the brain, not nerves. The real origin is in the back and behind the brain, life force. Oh, life force is the next topic. Life force is never used as an adjective. It is always a noun, the name of a quality state of existence. The intervertebral foramen are now-wise spinal windows, openings in the walls of the building containing transparent material as glass for the administration of light to be opened at will for the circulation of air. Nerves cannot become impinged between bones. That's important. Remember, we've been talking about hard bone, soft nerve, but Dee Dee was saying that can't happen. That's important. Impinge is a transitive verb followed by on, upon or against, as the second pair of spinal nerves are impinged on or upon by the displaced atlas. Impingement is a noun. Okay. Acting condition being impinged against. The nerve is impinged upon the impingement or displaced bone. A pressure exerted between two bones on opposite side is known as a pinch or a squeeze. All right. Basic chiropractic. But, in 1910, this was a revelation of philosophy and science and physiology. And he also goes against some things that we talk about, hard bone and soft nerve. But he said a nerve cannot be pinched by a bone, which is true now. We know that. And that's why.
But it can be by two bones. It's pinched by two bones. That's
pinched by the two bones, yeah. Okay. And what about if there is an arthritis or an osteophyte growth? Then there's an irritant, right? Causing an impingement. Now, I have a scientific thought. Are we affecting, is a vertebra subluxated? If it doesn't impinge a nerve, can it affect the spinal cord? And I'll give you my thoughts to that if you guys have thoughts yourselves.
Can you repeat again?
If the nerve is a subluxation, a vertebra out of place affecting the nerve, right? It has to have a nerve component. If the vertebra is not impinging a nerve root, if it's not impinging the nerve, can you be affecting the spinal cord?
I think it can.
Can you think of the physiology why?
I think it's because it has a displacement. If it affects something out on the eyeside, on the outside, something's going on in the inside where the column nerve is going on. So I think, yes, something has to happen there. I don't know what, but something's going on.
I'm going to send a message to your teachers in Mexico and tell them what a great job they're doing. I like that, Christian. That's really good. That's really good. That's what I think. Because what I look at is the dura around itself. And if there's anything affecting that dura, right, then there's the dentate ligaments that will stretch, like you said, on the tracts or the columns inside the spinal cord. And I think it can affect it. I think it affects it a lot.
Well, and that's what he calls an impingement, not a pinch. He differentiates between an impingement refers to the act or condition of being impinged against, as a nerve is impinged upon by the impingement of a displaced bone.
Yeah.
Pressure exerted between two bones on opposite sides is known as a pinch or a squeeze. So he's saying an impingement exists and a pinch exists, and they're two different entities.
I like that. Okay, good. That is perfect. Now, would
So
you go ahead, Christian?
I'm analyzing this, and so we can have a squeeze nerve or a pinch nerve. You said we need two bones to make that squeeze, right?
That's what he says here. We're,
Okay.
we're talking about what Didi says. It may or may not
So
be
that
entirely what we talk about in today's world, but that's what he's saying here, yes.
Go ahead, Christian.
okay. So that's what's happening out on the outside. That's where the connection of two bones are pinching that nerve. But in the inside, where the column nerve is going on, the
Spinal cord?
the cord, it's only being affected by one bone,
Can be.
because if you look at it like that's making things not work right there. So you have that happening in the inside, being affected by one bone, and on the outside the nerves are being affected by two bones. So you're being affected on your central nervous system by one bone, and on your, I don't know how you say,
Peripheral.
the peripheral nervous system is being affected by two bones.
Interesting. I like that. There's a lot of insight. I like it.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you for that, Christian. I learned a lot. I got a good concept in my brain for that. How far are you in school in Mexico, or are you practicing?
I am on the second year.
In your second year at Univet?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. You're doing great.
Going far, my friend. You're going far.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, what Didi is defining here as a pinch is what later in Stevenson's text is a component that they demand as part of a subluxation in Stevenson's text, because it says a bone out of place that impinges a nerve and interferes with, but it says out of place with the one above or one below or both, occluding a foramen and impinging a nerve and interfering with the transmission of mental impulses between brain cell and tissue cell. Can you tell I memorized that as Sherman? I had to write that down for tests over and over. I graduated from life research. But that's kind of what part of that is included in what's here, that later derivative.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think Christian's on target with really, because
yes,
now I'm starting to look at more of this in practice now, the spinal cord, and looking at the impingement from the center, and the periphery is secondary, right, where the nerve root comes. Let me pause, Marina. We have you on here, and I just want to say congratulations, Marina just got married.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I was out for a long time. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I have some input.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was hearing Dr. Monique Andrews about the 4 models of subluxation, and for me now it's a little bit hard to think about this model of impingement of the nerve. Also, we have neuroplasticity, disafferentation, stuff like that. But besides of the scientific part, I think it's important to always know that we have every human being, I think, have two sides, the male and female part. We have always to think about the male more like willing to make cracks on the back, to be strong, and also the female which is more intuitive, creative. So we have to use both sides to make the right adjustment.
I think that's a very important thing. And in our last reading in 1914, Didi talks about the duality of man or human being. And we have spirit and we have material. And that's where a lot of people misquote. 1 second. Mom, what's up? Okay, I'll get that for you. My 90-year-old mother moved in with me.
Milo!
I currently work for my mother now, if you didn't realize that. So, yeah, I think you're right on target. That's awesome. Because we have to think about that. You know, if we're only just dressing like we're pro wrestlers, you know, we have to be at ease. I did it already. I turned off the air conditioning.
Yeah, and I say that because maybe we don't even know what we are really doing. Like if we think about the nerve impingement and much more than that, thinking about neuroplasticity, and besides of thinking about that, just looking for the right place and the right moment to make the adjustment.
And that's a spiritual adjustment. If we're thinking all the whole time, then it's coming from our educated. What we learned from this person, I got confused by that one and this one. But that's the whole part of the work that we have to do, is get out of our educated. We've learned it. And allow spirit to guide us, or our innate to guide us and say, this is the right place. And, you know, that is what I'm doing is absolutely right in this moment, in this time. That's an important thing. Thank you for that, Marina. Big time.
It's, you know, it's a matter
like Mexico, Brazil. I mean, fantastic tonight.
we learn first all the details. You go to school and you learn physical adjusting in various ways, and learn a bunch, and learn as many techniques as you can in school, and then get out and learn more. And you find the things that work best for you. But it's a matter of like learning to walk. A child falls down thousands of times learning to walk, but then now you don't even think about putting one foot in front of the other. You never look where your feet are down there, unless you're walking where there's roots and broken ground and stuff, and then you're being more careful. But you don't look at your feet. It's become natural, and you can easily adapt your gait to the hill that you're walking on. And adjusting is somewhat the same way. You learn all the stuff, and then you learn how to use it and allow it to come through you, rather than thinking about, you know, the 3D model of and the five kinds of subluxations, and this model and that model, and they're all right. They all are, but that science breaks down pieces by pieces by pieces, but then you have to find how it works best through you, and you use the technique that you need on that person at that time, and the force that you need at that time, because some need more and some need less on a given day, and the same person could need different things on different days.
You know, the more I've...
But to be able to notice that those things are all available, you're way ahead of the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Carol, you just came on. Do you have anything to add? You don't have to. No pressure. Good to see you. All right. So what I was just going to add to that really is, now that, you know, I've been practicing for a couple of days, and I'm realizing I adjust people so much less, and I have so much more of an outcome than I did before. Even though I wasn't a flying 7, I didn't adjust people a lot. And, you know, our mentors had always said less is more. I remember that in school. And people now that I'm, you know, very often I'll adjust one bone and say, you know, take your time coming up, but hurry up. And, you know, but they're like, is that it? I'm like, everything has changed in you. You tell me. And I've had them tell me, well, yeah, everything's better. I feel fantastic. And I said, even important, you're doing better. Yeah, when you find that one point we talked about earlier before some of you on, just a critical point of tension maybe. But I think that's a subluxation. All right, Stephen, you just came on. You look like you're walking through a haunted house. There you go.
Well, we haven't discussed the idea of the piezoelectricity. And I think it's important, because when you take any crystalline structure such as quartz That's how quartz watches work. The bones are a crystalline structure. So when the vertebrae is under tension, there's an actual piezoelectric radiation interfering, kind of like, it's not like the wire being pinched, it's the field of that area being affected. And DD in 1895, he was of a certain open-minded, present-time consciousness, and he knew he was guided, because I think also that electrical, piezoelectrical, our hands can know it. And we are to give an adjustment with the same open-minded, quiet stillness that DD gave to Harvey Lillard.
Absolutely. You know, Logan, he was at Innate Adjusting. I don't know if he's actually on now, but that's one of the things that we show and demonstrate in Innate Adjusting is we look at the energetic field, the bioenergetic field of the person. And where there's a subluxation, there's a change in that field. And when we are in tune with that field, where if we want to look at it as harmony, that's disharmonious, but really it's that tone, that vibration has changed. So we're in that bioenergetic field. It would be perfect if everything was perfect from within, but it's emanating from inside out. So there are dips and changes in that field above a subluxation. And it's amazing once you start really getting in tune with that. It's truly amazing. But thank you for that, Stephen. I wasn't thinking of mentioning that, but you brought me right in tune to it.
And Stephen, thanks for putting on your clothes. We appreciate
We all
that.
appreciate that.
That's also, I think, analogous to what the Orientals or the Asians, the Far East philosophies call chi. Is that spiritual, energetic field of the body, and you can. And I didn't know to call it that until recently when I started studying Tai Chi and little Qigong, but I can form an energy ball with my hands and feel it, and I would do what I used to call the curious passing of hands over my patients, my practice members' spines, and I would and could feel a variation in the frequency in areas and say this isn't. I would know that was an area that needed to be adjusted, but because I'm also a high C in the disc model, I need some validation, so I do a leg check and say, oh yeah, look, there it is. And sooner or later that balanced out and I just trusted my hands. But it's...
I do want to say that if anybody disagrees with me on this call, I will take off my clothes.
That's enough of a threat for all of us. Thank you, Stephen.
Very good.
That's enough of the threat. Stephen's always right. Just let's all remember that.
Now,
oh my goodness.
Just joking.
The other thing is that I believe I'm not that different from everybody else in that we have learned to be always focusing on getting things done, clearing the patient, everything. It's all about future posturing or past reflecting. And when most of my life has been about get it done, and even like getting on my bike for enjoyment, I will go, well, let me have a place to go. Let me do it fast. Let me do it for a reason, rather than just empty and allow the ride to show me where to go. Stop planning. When I go with a patient with that emptiness, the vertebral subluxation in my hands know.
You know,
so have to get out of the doing.
The being, that's the biggest part. And especially we got a lot of students here from all over the place. And, you know, really we'd spend a lot of time in the doing. It's the being is the biggest part. And Logan, I mentioned you before, that's what we worked on in innate, right? In innate adjusting is really the being.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's super cool. I've been on and off. I'm like, I'm at work right now, valet, and some cars keep pulling up. So I'm like, oh crap. But I'm listening in. I'm tuning in. I've heard a lot of cool things.
Hey,
But,
you know, that is commitment, man. I dig it. That is so awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up a little bit. I'm going to read this last. Anybody have anything else?
I think David Sarnoff needs to do another advertisement.
The man with the velvet voice.
This program has been brought to you by Core Wooder. Drink Core Wooder for all your pH balances. Now back to our show.
Well,
Thank you.
that sponsor. Now they can send us a check. That would be really good. You know what? I'm going to save this part for next week. All right. We're going to be on page 53. It's sort of a little poem from Elizabeth Heffrick. And we're going to go through that part. Then we're going to pick up some other places through Dee Dee's writings. If you have something, though, send it to me through the week. If you want to read a part, if you need this in a PDF, I can send it to you, okay? But I think we got a lot of really good concepts, especially about adjusting and being free from our educated. Because once we get to BJ again, we're going to talk a lot more about that freedom of from educated to innate and educated to spirit. So does anybody have any closing arguments or something they like to talk about?
I have something to share, but I'm not sure if I'm right. I had an experience. I was practicing on my palpation, and I was scanning the bird. For that, I closed my eyes, and I let some other organs in my body to feel. And you guys were talking about energy and spirit. And as I was scanning, I noticed I got to a part in the body where my hand stood still, and I felt like a magnet. And I don't know, that was just awesome. I was kind of shocked at the time, but I think everything has to do with innate intelligence.
That's perfect.
That is kick-ass.
Trust
You're
it.
right in it, man. That is really good.
Trust it.
Trust
if you need to validate it, if you need, like I said, if you feel like you need to validate it through another analysis, that's okay. But trust that and learn to find it, learn to accept it when it comes, so it'll come more.
You'll get out of that validation thing in no time.
When you find that, acknowledge it and be grateful and let it grow.
In chiropractic, it was much more common in the past for people to say, I'm a clear and hollow vessel, right? That clear and hollow vessel is what you just created, is what you said. Clear and hollow vessel to allow spirit to speak through me and show me. I mean, you just got the message, man. In your second year at Univet, that is awesome. I'm really proud of you. That is really cool. Anybody else?
We are working hard.
I know you are. I know. Everybody.
Is that
Go ahead.
Is that what BJ or Didi calls tone? Is that the tone of the body?
I'm not sure if that was what he considered tone. I think that's a part of it. That is a really good philosophical question. Maybe we should all stew on that and come back next week for it. On tone. Should we discuss tone next week? I think it's a big topic. Give everybody a little homework. Okay? Instead of me doing it all, let's talk about tone next week. Okay? We have some good things. That means I've got to do a little more work. And but we're going to talk about that vibration, all right? But that's a part of it for sure. You tuned in, first of all. Okay?
Right.
So that's big. That's really big. All right, everybody. I'm going to wrap it up tonight.
I really needed this.
DE call tonight. And I'll see you next week. Okay, for the international folks, Do I have the times right on my post? Mariana, what time it's 2100 in Brazil, right? Okay. And Mexico
9 p.m.
9 p.m. In Mexico, Christian, it was did I get the time right? Like right now it's 7:48 in Mexico.
For us, yeah.
Okay. So I got it right this
Yes.
time. It's taking me a little trouble with this time change stuff. I'm working on it. I need a staff of like 75 me. All right. I love and appreciate you guys. Next weekend's DE. Logan, I hope I see some people at DE. And I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you next week right here, okay?
Oh yeah, we're bringing a crew down there to Clearwater. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. I'm going to
Hey,
have certificates of completion from a Nate Baby for everybody.
Oh, cool. That's
Nice.
awesome.
Hey, did you need the contact information for those people I sent you today?
What was that?
Did you need the contact information for those chiropractors?
Yes, please.
I'll get that to you. And George Curry called me today about something with ICA, but we were also talking, he's running a technique symposium, and I mentioned you, and so he may be getting in touch with you about that as well.
Hey, thank you. That's a great honor. I respect that a lot. Thank you. And these people I want to refer, they're my neighbors half the year, okay? So I'd really like to give them somebody that I would go to and you would go to.
Both those people are really good. You know, they're both principled chiropractors and do good work.
That's why I only asked you. I didn't even post it. I'm going to go straight to Allen, DC. I got to go to my man.
And they're in different parts of the city, so one's uptown and one's downtown. So they should be able to figure it out. But they're both close to metro stops.
Super.
Which is important here.
That's important.
Yeah.
All right, I love you guys. You have a great night. See you next week.